I'm not a professor. I'm a physical therapy student, and I know that exact frustration. You read a lot, you take notes, you even feel productive. But when you sit down to write your literature review, it still feels like you're going in circles. In physical therapy, precision matters. You can't just guess. You need evidence you can trace back, and you need a process you can repeat. We talk to AI like it's Google. We ask one vague question, and then we're shocked when the answer comes back generic, confident, and sometimes just wrong. Using AI without context is like stopping a professor in a hallway and blurting out, "What should I research?" without telling them your field, your level, your topic, or what you've already read. Of course, the answer will be vague, not because the professor is bad, but because you gave them nothing to anchor on. AI works the same way. No context, no facts, no clear process means you'll get a polite-sounding paragraph that can't support your literature review. So in today's video, I'm going to show you one change that fixes most bad AI outputs for research. It's not a magic prompt, it's a workflow. And I don't want this to be a one-way lecture. I want it to be a knowledge exchange. Drop your research topic in the comments and tell me the exact step you're stuck on right now, because I'm going to pick real viewer topics and turn them into case studies in the next video. Most people do one of two things with ChatGPT or Gemini, and both of them quietly sabotage your literature review. The first mistake is using AI like a search engine. You type something vague like, "Help me find a research gap in musculoskeletal rehab," and you hope the tool reads your mind. The second mistake is one-shot prompting. You ask one question, the answer feels messy or generic, and you decide AI isn't academic. But that's like walking into a library, grabbing the first book you see, and then calling the entire field useless because chapter 1 didn't solve your thesis. The problem is not the tool. The problem is the missing structure. When you don't give AI a map, it gives you a tourist brochure. It sounds nice, it sounds confident, it might even sound smart, but it doesn't know where you're going. And if you don't know where you're going, you cannot evaluate whether the answer is good. You can only react to how it feels. This is exactly why PhD students and serious researchers feel overwhelmed. You're already drowning in papers, deadlines, supervisor comments, and the pressure to be original. So when AI gives you a vague answer, it feels like one more disappointment. But here's the mental shift. AI is not a replacement for your brain. It's a force multiplier for your process. If your process is weak, AI multiplies confusion. If your process is strong, AI multiplies clarity. That's the whole point of today's workflow. We're not trying to make AI write your literature review. We're trying to make AI help you think like a researcher, step by step, with evidence you can trace. Here's the framework I use as a physical therapy student who actually has to defend claims with evidence, not vibes. 4 pillars: context, facts, precision, and process. If you remember nothing else, remember this. Context tells the model who you are and what you're trying to produce. Facts tells the model what it is allowed to base answers on. Precision tells it the exact scope and constraints, so it does not drift into random general health advice. Process forces step-by-step thinking, one task at a time, instead of dumping a full draft that you cannot verify. Think about it like this. If you stop a professor in a hallway and say, "What should I study?" you are going to get a generic answer because you gave them no context. But if you say, "I'm a PT student, I'm focusing on distal biceps injuries, and I need a literature review that leads to a clinical research gap," now the professor can actually help you. AI works the same way. Without context, the answer is broad. Without facts, the citations are shaky or made up. Without precision, the output becomes a blog post. Without process, you get a wall of text with no checkpoints. And here's why this matters for literature reviews specifically. A literature review is not a pile of summaries. It is an argument. It is you showing the reader, here's what we know, here's what we don't know, and here's why the gap matters. That argument requires control. Control of scope, control of evidence, and control of logic. These 4 pillars are how you keep that control while using AI. Let me show you the bad prompt first, because this is what most people do, and it's a trap. Imagine a viewer comments, "I'm working on distal biceps injuries, can AI help?" And I type, "Give me a good research question about distal biceps injuries." That sounds normal, right? But it's actually missing everything that makes research academic. There is no context. Am I a first-year student, a clinician, a PhD candidate? There are no facts. What papers am I using? What data is allowed? There is no precision. Do I care about surgical repair, conservative management, rehab timelines, tendon healing, re-rupture, strength outcomes? And there is no process. I didn't tell the model what steps to follow, so it will jump straight to a final answer. So what happens? The model answers like a blog. You get something safe, broad, and honestly not that useful, like, "What are the best rehab protocols after distal biceps repair?" It sounds fine, but it does not give you a defendable research gap. It doesn't tell you what the field already agrees on, what the limitations are, what the contradictions are, and what is actually missing. And here's the bigger danger. If you copy that style of output, your literature review becomes descriptive. It looks like you read a lot, but it doesn't prove anything. Your supervisor will say the painful line, "This is descriptive, not analytical." And it won't be because you're not smart. It will be because the workflow didn't force you to build an argument. Now let's do the same task, but the researcher way. We're going to give the AI the 4 pillars, and we're going to treat this like a workflow, not a magic prompt. First is context. I tell the AI, I'm a physical therapy student writing a literature review section. My goal is to identify 2 to 3 research gaps I can justify, not to get a full essay. That instantly changes the behavior. The model stops trying to sound finished and starts trying to be useful. Next is facts, and this is where most people skip the academic part. I tell the AI, use only the papers I provide, or only claims you can point to clearly inside those papers. If you cannot verify a claim from my documents, say you cannot verify. This is minimal RAG in practice. You are building a small knowledge base by uploading recent papers and telling the model, stay inside this evidence. That is how you reduce hallucinations, because you're not asking it to guess the literature from memory. You are asking it to analyze what you gave it. Then comes precision. I tell it, topic is musculoskeletal injuries. Focus on distal biceps. I care about mechanism, treatment outcomes, complications, and rehab timelines. I am not looking for general tendon injuries. I am not looking for shoulder or ACL unless it is explicitly used as comparison in the paper. Precision is how you stop the model from drifting. And finally, process. I say, one task at a time, first summarize the current approaches, then list limitations and contradictions, then propose gaps that matter clinically. This is the Socratic method applied to AI. You're not asking for the final answer, you're asking for the next right step. Here is the exact prompt I would paste, and you can copy this and adjust it for your own topic. Act as my research supervisor. I'm a physical therapy student writing a literature review on musculoskeletal conditions with a focus on distal biceps. I will provide papers as PDFs. You must only use information that can be traced to those PDFs. Step 1 only. Extract the main themes across the papers and group them into 4 to 6 categories. For each category, give me the key claim in 1 sentence. Do not invent citations. If a claim needs a source, ask me to point you to the exact section. And right here, quick CTA because I know someone is going to ask. If you want the exact tools and the exact workflow resources I use for literature reviews, check the links in the description. I'll put the AI tools there, plus a clean version of these prompts, so you don't have to rewrite them from scratch. Now notice what we just did. We didn't ask for a research gap directly, we asked for themes first, because gaps are not created out of thin air. Gaps come from patterns, limitations, and contradictions inside the themes. This is the difference between AI helped me write and AI helped me think. This is the proof moment that makes the whole thing ethical and academic. Do not let AI sound right. Make it show its work. The moment the AI gives you a category like post-operative rehab timelines very widely, you do not accept it as truth just because it sounds plausible. You follow up with a verification prompt, something like, for category 2, show me the exact quote or the exact section from the paper that supports this claim. Include the paper title and tell me which part of the paper it comes from. For example, methods, results, or discussion. Format it so I can cite it later. If the tool can point, we use it. If it cannot point, we do not use it. Period. That single habit will protect your credibility more than any fancy prompt. Because hallucination is not always obvious. Sometimes it's not a fake citation, it's a real-sounding claim with no support. And in academic writing, unsupported claims are still a problem, even if they are true in the real world. You have to show evidence. This is also where you slow down and stop feeling overwhelmed. You are not trying to read everything. You are trying to verify what matters. You are building a chain of evidence one link at a time. And if you're thinking, this feels slower, yes, it is slower than copying and pasting, but it is faster than rewriting your entire literature review after your supervisor says, where is the evidence for this? It is faster than the panic of realizing you cannot find the source you thought you had. It is faster than submitting something you don't trust. Now, once you have themes and verified limitations, you're basically building a funnel. You start broad, then you narrow. You move from general context to patterns, to contradictions, to the gap. And here's what I want you to internalize. A research gap is not, nobody studied this. That's almost never true. A real gap is more like, here's what we know, here's what we don't know, and here's why it matters clinically. Especially in physical therapy, the strongest gaps connect back to patient outcomes, function, adherence, and real-world decision-making. So after step 1 themes, your next Socratic step is limitations. You ask, for each theme, what are the common limitations across these papers? Are samples small? Are follow-up periods short? Are protocols inconsistent? Are outcome measures not comparable? Is there selection bias? Are rehab timelines reported but not standardized? Then you ask contradictions. Do the papers agree on outcomes? If not, what differs? Population, technique, measurement, timing. Then, and only then, do you ask for gaps. Based on these limitations and contradictions, propose 2 to 3 research gaps that a PT student could justify in a literature review. Each gap must include why it matters clinically and what kind of study design could address it. This is how you go from descriptive to analytical. You are not listing papers. You are building reasoning. You are showing the reader that you understand the landscape, not just the details. And once you have a gap, the rest becomes much easier. Your research question starts to write itself because it is anchored in evidence. Your methods become easier to justify because they are a response to the limitation you identified. Your literature review stops being a report and becomes a case for why your study needs to exist. And if you want to turn this into a living case study series, here's the engagement funnel. Comment your topic and answer this one question. What did you do the last time you tried to make progress on your literature review, and what part broke down? Was it searching? Was it filtering? Was it organizing? Was it synthesizing? I'm going to pick real comments, use your topic, and in the next video, I'll show the exact workflow with the exact prompts and the proof moment where we verify claims from the uploaded papers. So the big takeaway is simple. AI doesn't fail you because it's stupid. It fails you when you give it no context, no facts, no precision, and no process. If you use the 4 pillars and force one task at a time, you'll stop getting generic answers and start getting research moves you can actually defend. If you want, drop your topic, and where you're stuck in the comments, I'll pick a few and turn them into real case studies for the next video. And if you want more help with literature reviews plus AI workflows, watch the next video on my channel. I'll also leave the AI tools I regularly use linked in the description. See you in the next video.